Hey everyone, welcome back to Topher Drives, where today we're going to show you what it's like to live with this 2025 Genesis GV80 Coupe. I think we all knew it was only a matter of time until Genesis hopped on this trend that BMW started back in 2008 with the X6, that being, of course, the coupe SUV. And I don't know that I necessarily think that every SUV deserves to be coupified, but considering that this is in the same segment as the BMW X6, the Mercedes GLE, the Porsche Cayenne Coupe, and whatever other German SUVs are becoming coupes these days, I suppose that Genesis felt that they needed to do this. So today we're going to show you what it's like to live with this. I have to run to the grocery store and grab a few things, and then of course we'll end downtown. We'll show you maneuverability and just kind of all the little details with this new GV80 Coupe. Now, don't think that this is just a GV80 with a little bit of the roof chopped off. There is some uniqueness to this coupe model. This actually has its own unique powertrain, a 3.5 liter twin turbocharged E-Supercharged 48 volt mild hybrid assisted V6 combined power output with all of that forced induction and electricity, 409 horsepower, 405 pound-feet of torque. It's all-wheel drive, and it has an 8-speed automatic transmission. Now, this is a very similar powertrain to what we see in the Genesis G90, the flagship sedan. It's got its own unique tune, as they've tried to make this a little bit sportier than just the normal GV80 and of course the G90. The electric supercharger in the G90 is more focused on smoothness, and the one in this is tuned more for low down torque. When the engine is revved low, the electric supercharger is assisting, and when it's revved high, most of the focus is on those twin turbos. Now, we also have some changes around back and on the side here. Every GV80 Coupe gets an eLSD, and also we have these unique 22-inch wheels with a 265 section tire squared setup, 265/40/22, and today we're running on a Michelin Primacy. I think I looked at these yesterday. I thought it said it was a Michelin Primacy. Yeah, Michelin Primacy Tour AS. So kind of just a basic all-season tire, which is interesting that they run such a wide tire in the front. Could be part of the reason why this is only rated at 20 mpg combined, 18 city, 22 highway. So let's talk about this car that we have here in front of us. This is, of course, as I said, the E-Supercharged variant, the top trim. The GV80 Coupe is also available with just the regular turbocharged 3.5 liter V6 that you would see in a top trim GV80 non-coupe. But this E-Supercharged version starts at $85,000. This one, as spec'd with this exterior color and a key card and destination and things, comes out to just under 88 grand. Let's talk about our spec. So this is finished in Bering Blue, kind of think Bering Strait, Bering Sea. And then the interior is finished in Ultramarine. So kind of a boating spec on this GV80 today. I've always kind of thought that the GV80 looks like a yacht, and especially now that it's in coupe form, it looks even more like a boat. But I suppose that spec is appropriate, as this weighs 2.5 tons, a 5,100 pound curb weight on this big behemoth. So I think that's kind of all of our details out of the way. Why don't we poke around this thing and see what we have? I think some design inspiration in the back from the GV60, being as that little tiny electric SUV is kind of a coupe itself. And then the main way to tell that this is an E-Supercharged model is the quad exhaust exits. These are fake. They're molded into the bumper. They're little metal pieces that go into the bumper, but the non-E-Supercharged version just has two little ovals. So, and then we also get our four-wheel drive / all-wheel drive little badge here in the back that Genesis likes to implement. To open our power liftgate, there's a button above the backup camera, just like the non-coupe version. And your first glimpse here at this ultramarine interior. This little privacy cover finished in micro suede. It folds up to give you some extra room. We've got blue carpet, and usually when Genesis does a blue interior or any sort of colored interior, they don't mess around. Everything in here is blue, and we also have some orange accenting, which we'll show you once we're up there as well. We have a little bit of storage actually under the floor. This one is full of things. That is a tire mobility kit. We have a front plate, the owner's manual, so that cubby is completely full. And then this lifts up a little bit more. You see you have a couple other cubbies under there. Very shallow And this is actually kind of a high load surface. I'm 5'11", and it's right below my hip, but I think lifting things in and out of here would be okay. And you don't lose a ton of room with the GV80 Coupe. Obviously, there's a little bit of functionality lost, mainly in the cargo area. You don't lose a ton in the back seat, but if you're carrying things that are very large, I don't know that you're really thinking about getting a GV80 in the first place. But that's the thing with coupe SUVs, is you don't really lose as much as you may think. And it really just comes down to design preference. I still think coupe SUVs, they're a little bit silly, but you know, if you want to stand out going down Rodeo Drive in a coupe SUV that not everybody has these days, I guess this might be a good option for you. We have this little roof spoiler with kind of like a double bubble design here in the back. You can see there's our camera for our rear view mirror camera. Let's jump in the back seat and we'll show you what this is all about. Okay, the interior is by far my favorite part of this, and that's because of the way they've accented this. And not only with the accent colors, with the materials they've used in here. Top of the door panels in leather. We have that throughout the door panel until you get to the very bottom. This orange accented stitching. We have this carbon fiber trim, which is glossy. It's woven in a very unique way. I really love that. Bang & Olufsen speaker covers look great. We have this quilting that kind of reminds me of Audi S and RS cars. And these rear seats are power as well. So you've got these little switches down here. You can move these forwards and back, and you can also move your backrest forward or back. They recline quite a ways. This GV80 Coupe has soft closed doors. That is a standard feature here on this E-Supercharged model. Fold down armrest with a console and cup holders. So all of your amenities that you see in the regular GV80 SUV, they carry over here to the Coupe. You have your own climate control panel. You've got some USB-C outlets. You've got a wall-style plug down here. You can control the passenger seat from the back. And like I said when I was in the trunk, room back here is just fine. I think you lose like an inch of headroom, which could be a make or break for some people if you're super tall, but at 5'11", sat all the way up, I mean, I've got a good probably 3 inches above my head. So you could be well over 6 foot and be just fine. You can see we have these little buttons back here for our noise insulation. When I say buttons, I mean like a sewn-on button to tell you that we have lots of sound deadening in this. I'm sure that adds to our weight as well. Micro suede headliner in blue looks fantastic. We don't have sunshades back here, but I mean, I think that's okay. So, all right, let's jump out of this. Let's quickly show you the 3.5 liter twin turbo E-Supercharged 48 volt mild hybrid V6, and then we'll jump up front, we'll jump on the road, and we'll show you what it's like to drive this GV80. I just love soft closed doors. And I love cars that are under 100 grand that give you soft closed doors. Under the hood, this looks very similar to just your run-of-the-mill Genesis 3.5 liter V6, because at a base level, like I said, it is still that same engine. But down here on, I suppose, the left-hand side of the engine, I don't know if you guys can see that on camera, is our E-Supercharger. Again, that helps assist with our low RPM situations, takeoffs, things. It kind of fills all the gaps that we had before with this regular 3.5 liter twin-turbo V6. We have this dark chrome trim around the car, and from the front three-quarter, I mean, this is still unapologetically GV80, and the GV80 got a facelift for the 25 model year. We drove a regular variant of this with the normal SUV back end back in April of last year. So if you want to check that video out, I'll link it down in the description. But cool. All right, let's jump in this. Show you what it's like up front. Now, this is my favorite part of the car, as I've already said, and mostly because it's so exquisite up here, and Genesis has gone a little bit crazier with some of these color palette specs, whatever you want to call it, for the coupe. Now, they could have just gone very run-of-the-mill blue ultramarine. They could have done white piping and white seat belts, but no, they've gone for this orange accenting, which I think is a little bit of an Easter egg to the Magma cars that are upcoming. This is suspiciously similar to that red-orange color that they teased last year with the GV80 Coupe Magma Special. So I suppose maybe this first rendition of the GV80 Coupe is kind of the gateway drug to the Magma edition that may or may not be coming down the line. Magma being Genesis's sort of like M or AMG or RS product that they've never really had. I mean, you guys have to remember that Genesis is still a pretty new brand. And I know Hyundai's been around forever, but Genesis itself as a brand, they're still kind of entering this market. They're still kind of in the experimental period with their company. So they have to figure out what's going to work. Okay, let's fire this thing up. You can hear there we don't have a starter noise because, of course, this is a 48-volt mild hybrid assisted system. We have unique aluminum pedals, which look like the grille of the car, but that is unique to the Coupe as well. And then in this particular car, all this carbon fiber. I absolutely love it. We saw it a little bit on the rear door panels, but it's everywhere up here. And the mix of materials up here, I absolutely love. I'm going to turn on my heated seat and my heated steering wheel. And I'm excited to say that the armrest is now heated. I don't remember this being heated in the non-coupe, or this may just be a new feature for 2025. I think when I filmed the GV80 SUV, it wasn't cold enough to have a heated seat on, so I probably wouldn't have tried that out. But this armrest over here is heated, unfortunately, on the door panel. This is just plastic, so we don't have a heated amenity there. But this is a unique steering wheel to the Coupe. It's very similar looking to the new steering wheel that we got with the 2025 facelift, but this now has a flat bottom, so it's a little bit sportier. Again, that's kind of what Genesis is going for with this Coupe SUV. We have this beautifully stitched airbag cover with that orange stitching, and in front of the steering wheel, a 27-inch continuous display. I know a lot of people don't like this, and I know a lot of people actually prefer the interior on the 2024 and prior models because they had less screenage. But what I do appreciate about this is that it is one continuous screen. It's not like an Infinity where you have that little split in the middle, just makes everything look very cheap. Below our screen, of course, this haptic touch climate control panel. We don't have many physical buttons left here in the center stack of the GV80, but all of this stuff works just fine. I've got my perfume on. It's maximum spray because it reminds me of driving that wonderful G90 that we had last year, had the same sort of system. We have this hidden compartment here behind even more carbon fiber. That hides a couple of USB-C ports and a wireless charger. I've got my phone sitting in here right now. I suppose I'll stick it on the wireless charger. And I think the biggest news, actually, this is reminding me since my phone is not plugged in, we have wireless Apple CarPlay on this GV80 for the first time ever. So that is very exciting news, but I don't really feel the need to praise them for that because they should have done that years ago, but at least we can finally stop complaining about it. Number of drive modes here on this GV80 Coupe: Eco, Comfort, Sport, Sport Plus, My Mode, and Snow Mode. Sport Plus is the mode most worth talking about because it is unique to the GV80 Coupe, and you can see another little Easter egg here. Our tack needles kind of look like Magma. And also Sport Plus turns off our traction control, and allegedly we have launch control in this thing, so we'll have to try that later. I have driven this some, obviously I've been living with it this week, and I haven't gotten launch control to work, but we will try together in a little bit and see if we can do so. Otherwise, this infotainment, it's the same as we've known, apart from having wireless CarPlay. The coolest part about this is that you can do Forza Vista of your car. You can see 360 view. You can also spin it with the knob down here, yeah. Little kind of like iDrive controller type thing. I like that we have that still. So, okay, well, we're just going to leave this on the dark nav screen. Please go back. There you go. Let's put on our Magma seat belt, which will tension us. And let's go ahead and go for a drive. Shifter's a dial. This is nothing new. It's been the same on the GV80, I think, since it came out. The only silly thing is our little infotainment controller sits right by it. It's pretty much the same size. It's made of the same material, so you got to be careful. I haven't done it yet this week, but I imagine maybe the confusion does happen. But you have to remember which one is your infotainment dial, which one is your shifter. You can see leading lines. We have a 360 camera in this as well. Pretty high resolution stuff here. Into drive, front camera pops up. The one thing I will say, and actually the first thing I noticed while driving this GV80 Coupe, is that the steering is a little bit heavier. And I think there's this misconception that heavy steering always means sporty, and I don't really think that's the case. I think sporty steering is simply defined by the amount of feel that you get through the steering. I don't think weight really has a ton to do with it. Obviously, if you're driving something that doesn't have power steering or whatever, some old classic enthusiast car, you'll have a lot of weight. But what I'm trying to say is I don't think it's necessary to tune heavier steering into a car like this, as I think the regular GV80 is kind of finally getting to a point where the steering is very dialed in. This one is certainly a little bit heavier. Effortless acceleration, pretty good tuning from that throttle pedal. And I appreciate all the gaps that this E-Supercharger fills, along with the 48-volt mild hybrid system. But do I think this is a special feeling powertrain? Absolutely not. This is, I think, still where Genesis lacks a little bit, and still where you can kind of see that $30,000 to $40,000 price difference as compared to a BMW S6, an Audi S8, SQ8, excuse me, or a Mercedes GLE Coupe. V6, it's hard for me, it's hard, I think, for a V6 to feel special. You can do all the twin turbocharging and E-Supercharging that you want, but at the end of the day, it's still a 3.5 liter V6. And I think it just kind of cheapens the experience overall. Let's talk about this 8-speed. Of course, this 8-speed has been able to evolve as well in the entire production run of the Genesis GV80. And they've really got it tuned up for 2025. This thing pulls some super aggressive downshifts by itself while it's in its sport mode. We're actually going to go right to Sport Plus, why not? See, this holds gears. Of course, you can take manual control as well with the steering wheel mounted paddle shifters. Come into this corner here. Look at that downshift. Holding gear there at 5,500. You can feel that ELSD through the corner as well. Sport Plus defaults your traction to off, but if you want to turn it back on, you can do so. It will just put you back into regular sport mode. But I like to have my Magma dials here. Magma needles, rather. Okay, let's take manual control. Do that just by pulling one of these paddles. It's decently quick, but I mean, it doesn't blow your face off. 5,100 pounds with 400 horsepower, obviously, it's not going to be insane. It's plenty quick, don't get me wrong. I think there's plenty of power here to give you somewhat of a sporty feel. Let's try a launch control. The way I understand it is all you have to do is be in Sport Plus mode, full brake, full gas, release brake. So we'll see if it works. If it doesn't work, we may just kind of disable everything, but we'll see. So no sort of message coming up saying launch control. Let's try and turn everything off here. Okay, stability control is now off as well. Let's see if that does the trick. There we go, launch control ready. All right, not too bad. 0 to 60 happens in, it's like 5.5 seconds or something. We can time it off the video and see what we achieved there, but Here's the thing with this car. I think Genesis has tried to do some sort of a sporting factor with this GV80 Coupe, and they've succeeded in some aspects. I think some of the gimmicky things, the little magma needles, which I still can't get over, the ELSD, the little bit of a power bump. It's only like 30 horsepower more than the regular twin turbo, but you still have a pretty good amount of body roll with this. I mean, I don't know if that comes through on the screen, but even in Sport Plus mode with these adaptive dampers, there's a ton of body roll with this thing still. Brake test. Brake pedal feels nice. I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't think this feels special enough over just a regular GV80 to put it into another class above a GV80 just because it's a coupe. Okay, let's go back into comfort mode. We're going to put the transmission back into drive. Do that just by holding our up paddle. And we'll jump on the highway, and we'll do what this is actually meant to do, to commute to downtown. Let's turn traction back on. Talk about what this thing is like to sit in on the highway. We'll go to the store, do all of our normal stuff. The steering itself, it's not super quick either. I think a lot could be achieved with just a completely different steering rack, completely retuned. So a little bit of wind noise coming in. It is a bit of a windy day, so we'll give it that. But anyway, I think as a first effort from Genesis to do something sporty with an SUV, this is not bad, but they certainly still have a long ways to go. Okay, let's get this merged on. There is quite a bit of wind noise that I haven't noticed because we, prior to this, I've been playing music. We have a Bang & Olufsen sound system, which is epic. Of course, we'll give you guys a demo of that once we're rolling on the highway a bit. Overall tire NVH from these Michelin Primacies, not too bad, and even with this having the 22-inch wheels, impact harshness is not too bad either. Getting quite a bit of air coming at me. Put that on the floor as well. Vent placement is actually quite nice in this. Very easy to aim. And they're integrated nicely into the design as well. I think vents are something that they're not talked about enough in these reviews. And obviously they have to be integrated in some sort of way with all of this technology. And oftentimes they're either very poorly placed above or below a screen to where it's just a nightmare to get them to blow on you correctly. And in this GV80, they are in a pretty good spot here. As far as sitting in this, these adaptive dampers in comfort mode, they are pretty forgiving. I always forget, at 81 miles per hour in Genesis products, the seat bolsters squeeze you. And they're doing that to me now. So this actually, not only does it have adaptive dampers, but it has this technology where the car uses its cameras to kind of view the road ahead. So if it sees a huge pothole coming, it can adjust the dampers to be softer or harder or whatever, depending on the road surface, which is technology that I first saw publicized back in 2017 on the Ford Fusion Sport. I remember that was a pretty big deal. But if you think even further back to like the 1990s when Bose made those dampers that could like jump speed bumps and things. Obviously that's a very extreme example, but kind of cool tech to see that here in the GV80, and the ride quality is really fantastic in this. That's one thing that I'm proud of Genesis for keeping, is a nice ride here. They haven't gone full sports car where they make the ride way too stiff for the platform. So I thank you, Genesis, for not ruining the ride here. So obviously this is a Hyundai Genesis product, so we have all of the driver aids we could ever desire. We have steering assist, we have lane keep assist. Now Genesis, I'm going to switch spots with this semi-truck. Genesis was super early to this. I remember way back when I started this gig in like 2020. get this reset. All of these Kias and Hyundais and Genesis cars had this driver assist system, and it was just about as good as it is now. I think it'll even do, I don't like this. Okay. I think it's going to take this exit by itself. I'm going to hover over it. Ew, this is quite the corner, actually. I don't know that it can do this. Nope, take control. Okay. So it can't quite do an angle like this, but it does a pretty dang good job. And we've shown these systems a million times in our videos, so I don't really feel the need to dwell on this cruise control. Just know that it does the trick. It does a dang good job. Ergonomically, sitting in this GV80 seating position is quite nice. I've got my seat lowered down all the way. With this being a coupe, visibility out of the rear isn't the best, but as I mentioned in the walk around, we have a camera rear view mirror, so that helps us out seeing out of this from the back. I can see almost all the way over the hood, and as far as like resting my arms go, I'm satisfied with this. Elbow comfiness is fantastic. The armrest is heated. I suppose you'll have one warm elbow and one cold elbow. Some of the higher end cars like the BMWs and the Mercedes, the door panel armrest is heated as well. So, you know, there are some things in this that remind you that you are in a bit of a budget alternative. But man, most of the time they do a really good job covering it up. Seating comfort is fantastic. We have massaging seats. You can see I can get to those from the side of the seat. I don't have to go into the menu to trigger a massage. Ergo motion, they call it. I've always thought that this chassis was impressive, just on the regular GV80. Obviously shares the same platform with that. So the chassis itself, yes, it has body roll, but it's pretty well dialed in. As we kind of get through some of this traffic, why don't we do a sound system test on this Bang & Olufsen. We're going to do a new song today. This is one that I downloaded for a night drive I did on the Audi SQ7. I don't know if that video is out yet. It's probably not out yet, but you'll hear it then. But let's do this now. I said in my SQ7 video that song just makes me want to weave traffic at 150 miles an hour, but kind of gives you a little bit of a taste for some of the highs, some of the more complex sounds as the song is starting, and then a bit of power from the bass. Now, I've always been a fan of the sound systems in these GV80s, and they actually had a lexicon system when these came out back about 5 years ago. But the Bang & Olufsen is a good addition. I don't think it's the best Bang & Olufsen on the market. I think the ones in the Audis kind of barely shine above it, but it's a pretty dang good system, kind of like an A-tier system, if you will. Okay, let's get parked up here at the grocery store. Looks like my normal spot is actually available. We won't have to loop the parking lot like we sometimes do. Get this thing backed in. You can see there, I do wish this had just a little bit of a quicker steering rack. But really, really nice quality 360 camera, getting us back into the spot, right up to the pile of snow without crashing into it. Push P on our dial shifter, and then we also have an electronic parking brake to the left of the steering wheel here. And we'll shut the car off. And of course, it plays us out with that very kind beat. So far on today's trip, we've done 13.6 miles to the gallon. So a little bit under that 18 city rating that we have. 2 clicks on the door. I may actually even be able to go 3. You can see spacing in this spot. Plenty of room. Not a super large door, so that is nice. And it fits in the spot with no real problem. Same wheelbase as the regular GV80, so if you're interested in just a plain GV80, this will be a very similar spacing for you. Only 1 bag of groceries today, but we'll still show you how it stacks up with our cargo space here in the GV80. Now, this will automatically unlock when you get close to it, but we do have rear proxy key. You can see this is probably where I'll end up sticking this, just because I don't have a ton. It's gonna roll around if I... But we'll still show you what it looks like just so you can get an idea dimensionally. Oh, does this have a kick to open? Don't think it does. Okay, I'll just touch that and open it. So one thing that would help back here is actually this cargo net. Of course, I could go like this, and actually, in fact, maybe I will. But you can see plenty of room back here for all of the stuff that you may need. Just with the coupe architecture, can't really carry anything super tall. But okay, well, I'm just gonna leave that right there. Hopefully I don't forget it later when I get back to the house. But shut the hatch. We'll jump back in and we'll finish our little drive. You can see comfort access moving that seat back, steering wheel up for me as I jump in. And our little car here on the cluster shows you when your brake lights or when your turn signals are on too. Pretty sweet. I think the overall smoothness and refinement of this powertrain is the best that it's ever felt. In a GV80, of course, I've driven the 4-cylinder variant. I've driven the V6 twin turbo a number of times. This is like the 5th or 6th GV80 that I've driven. And even though I said earlier that this V6 with the E-Supercharger doesn't feel special enough, and I'm going to stand by that, I do think it's the closest to feeling special of any GV80 powertrain, just because there's a little bit more going on. The torque gaps are filled. The 48-volt mild hybrid system adds a nice level of complexity that does make this feel a bit more European. Your auto stop starts, you don't have a starter motor, there's no joltiness. So the smooth factor, the effortless factor of this is there. I just think this would be so much more high-end feeling if we had an inline 6 or even a V8, which I know is a total dream. There's never going to be a V8 in a GV80. I guess I should never say never. Maybe in the Magma we'll see a V8 GV80, but I highly doubt it. I think maybe down the line it would be nice to see Genesis develop some kind of an inline 6 to put in their cars, because it would really kind of edge them up higher in the competition. All right, guys, well, as we pull into the structure, go ahead and wrap up my thoughts on this GV80 Coupe. Of course, this isn't going to make any fun noises here in the parking structure.
Select an event from the screen menu.
Looks like we're actually at a pretty good height here to receive.
Welcome. Please take your...
Thank you so much. Good height to receive our ticket. Stick that in our micro suede sun visor. Actually, being in the dark here gives us a good opportunity to show you the ambient lighting. All right, well, let's go ahead and wrap up my thoughts here on this GV80 Coupe. I think as a first effort for Genesis to build something a little bit different, it's nice. And I know that the whole coupe SUV thing, it's overplayed. Everybody has their own rendition, but still, consider that Genesis is, they're a new company still. And it's cool to see that they are trying to do things a little bit out of the ordinary. And also, I still think these magma colored seat belts and the magma stitching are an Easter egg, a bit of a sneak peek to what we can expect in the future. So I hope that they really go all in on this magma thing. And with this being kind of a lukewarm first look at that, I don't think it's a bad effort at all. Do I think it's all the way sporty? Do I think it feels super special? No, not really. But I've always liked the GV80 just as a car. It's one of my favorites in the segment, and it's hard to beat for the price if you're comparing to offerings from BMW, Mercedes, Audi, whatever the other competitors are. I know that the GV80 Coupe does start at about $80,000. It's expensive, but just to like mention just the regular GV80, I mean, that car starts, I think, around 60,000. So you can get into a GV80 for quite a lot less than this. And I think that's kind of the saving grace of this car, and just the fact that it is more accessible to more people. Though 60 grand is still a lot of money. I'm not discounting that. Okay, let's give you guys one last look at this GV80 Coupe. Be curious to hear what you think about this in the comments. Build quality, design, exquisite. Daily drivability, very nice. It's very easy to live with. You know, everything is usable, all of that stuff. Ergonomically, it's nice. Seating position is good. I think there's just a little bit of that driver engagement that they're lacking, and SUVs don't have to have crazy driver engagement, but if you're going to market something as sporty, I think you kind of have to fulfill certain aspects that this car just doesn't quite get to. But I have high hopes that the Magma Special is going to kind of check all those boxes for us, so only time will tell. I do love the Bering Blue. Kind of matches the blue building in the back there that we've seen happen from the ground up. But all right, cool guys, well, that's going to wrap it up for us with the GV80 Coupe. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions about what it's been like to live with this thing this week. But that'll do it for us today. Thank you guys all so much for watching. Thank you so much. We're closing in on 90,000 subscribers, which is just an unbelievable number. So if you're one of the OGs, or if you just subscribed today, thank you so much for hanging out with me. Thank you for watching these videos of me driving cars. It's such a good time, and I love having you guys along for the ride. So cool. All right, well, thank you again, and we will see you in the next one. Take care.